Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here. In today's video, we're going to take a look at the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Tuesday, August the 18th. We're going to cover the four-gamer today. It's going to be 4 games every day for at least the next week or so until teams start getting eliminated. At least today, we do have 4 or 8 different teams playing, 4 different games. So this will be fun to break down, different guys to talk about. Wednesday slate is going to be very similar to Monday's slate. It's going to be the same games every other day. But still, we got 4 different games to hit on today. We'll start off at the top with point guard like we always do. Just before we do get started, guys, as always, I would appreciate it if you would hit that like button down below. Make sure you subscribe as well. I do appreciate all the new subscribers that, have hit the subscribe button since I, brought back NBA videos since sports have come back. We've been getting a ton of new subscribers, been getting a lot of new faces on the channel, a lot of new faces in the comment section. I can't thank you guys enough for checking out the channel, for, being supportive. We just passed 19,000 subscribers, just a couple days ago. We're on the road to 20,000 subscribers, constantly growing. The channel's been taking off ever since sports came back. So thank you to all of you that have subscribed. If you haven't subscribed, be sure to hit that subscribe button and click that notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. And if you really enjoy these videos and you want to get more content from me, I do have stuff available on Patreon. That is linked down below in the description. You can check all that out, get access to my articles, my updated core plays. You can get in our Discord chat as well that is available for Patreon members. So check that out, link down below in the description. But let's go ahead and take a look at Tuesday's 4-game slate. We will start off at the top where we got James Harden at 11,700 at point guard. Then you got Lillard for 11,400 and LeBron for 10,700. Those are our 3 guys over 10K. So I think for me, this slate kind of starts with James Harden. We know that Russell Westbrook is not going to play today. When you take Russell Westbrook off the floor, James Harden just has absolutely insane numbers. I'll pull them up real quick just so you guys can see. I do this every time Westbrook sits, but I want to pull it up in case there's some new people here that don't know the numbers. You take Clint Capella off the floor as well because Clint Capella, not with the team anymore. He got traded to the Hawks. So looking at Harden's numbers with both Westbrook and Capella off the floor, he's played 696 minutes with those 2 guys off, has a 44% usage rate, averaging 1.88 fantasy points per minute, 46% assist percentage. Just absolutely insane numbers, up there with Giannis in terms of his fantasy point per minute average. I believe Giannis' season-long fantasy point per minute average is right around, 1.8. I expect Harden to be incredibly productive today. It's the playoffs, so you can expect him to play about 40 minutes here, maybe even more. Going to get all the usage, going to have the ball in his hands a ton. OKC, they've got some solid defenders. Chris Paul can defend pretty well, but you're not taking James Harden, out of the game. James Harden's going to just shoot no matter what. He's going to find a way to get to the bucket, to put the ball in the bucket, to get to the basket, to drive to the basket. He's my favorite stud on the slate. We do have some guys on DK that are underpriced today, so it makes it pretty easy to get to Harden. We kind of had the same thing on Monday's slate. You had guys like Jordan Clarkson, Royce O'Neal, OG, Anunoby, like all those guys were under 4K and all projected pretty well. We kind of have the same thing today. We don't have the same like punt values under 4K, but there's some guys like in the 4K to 5K range that look really good today. So it should be pretty easy to pay up for Harden. He is my top stud on the slate. It's hard not to like him whenever Westbrook's out. That's the case today. Harden is 11.7. He's not insanely cheap, but still, he does project better for me than guys like Lillard. Lillard's been insane. I expect him to continue to produce an incredibly high level. Gonna play, monster minutes, probably 40, 42 minutes. I just prefer James Harden with the level of production that Harden produces at, when you take Westbrook off the floor. He's my favorite guy to pay up for. If we look at Yahoo's pricing, you have a small discount on Lillard compared to Harden. Harden's 55, Lillard's 51. I think I still prefer to go to Harden on Yahoo as well. Hard not to like him here, even against a pretty solid Thunder defense. Harden's just going to do so much offensively, going to have the ball in his hands so much, going to get all the usage. But I do like Lillard here. It's just hard for me to play like Harden or play Lillard over Harden, especially when they're the same salary or close to it at least. If there was maybe $1,000 difference, that would make Lillard more interesting. I don't see myself getting too much Damian Lillard today because I just prefer Harden. LeBron as well. I don't know if I'm going to be paying 10-7 for LeBron when we have Harden for just 1,000 more, who legit has 90, 100 point upside. Like we've seen Harden go for 100 DraftKings points whenever Westbrook's out, or whenever back in couple of years ago when Chris Paul was out, you would see Harden just go for monster games. So yeah, that's what I'm liking at the top of the position. Now, if we look into the mid-range, I think these OKC guards look really good today. You got Chris Paul at 7,700, SGA at 6,900. I think given the savings, I do prefer SGA. He looks pretty good at 6,900. I think this is the highest total game on the slate. It's actually not. So Portland, LA is got a 229.5 total. OKC Houston 225.5. This is still a really good spot, though, for these OKC guards. Playing against Houston, a team that plays at a very fast pace. During the regular season, they played at the second fastest pace in the league, only behind the Bucks. So it's a good spot for both Paul and SGA. I do like both those guys quite a bit. If I had to choose one, I think I would lean with SGA. But both guys look like really solid option. Malcolm Brogdon, I like him as well here against the Heat. Not the best spot, but we know Malcolm Brogdon should be locked into big minutes. Should get more usage since Sabonis is out. TJ Warren's going to be back. Miles Turner's going to be back. Oladipo will be back as well. We saw all those guys were out in their last game, but that was mainly just due to them, wanting to rest those guys and prepare them for the playoffs. Now that the playoffs are here, you expect all those guys to be back. I don't know if Brogdon's going to get the, crazy uses that he was able to get in that game, but at 6,800, probably going to play 36 minutes if I had to guess, right around there. He stands out as well. I think because SGA is in a better game and a better matchup, I do prefer him a little bit more than Brogdon. But, both those guys look pretty solid in the mid-range. Then we get down here, the 5K range. Not much here. Kendrick Nunn's going to go to the bench. They've already came out and said that he's going to play off the bench. So I don't really want to play him at 5,600 coming off the bench. Eric Bledsoe, I rarely play whenever Giannis is healthy. I don't think I'm going to get to Bledsoe a ton today. He's 5,400. I like the price. He should probably play about 32, 34 minutes. Bledsoe, not a guy that's going to go out there and play like 40 minutes, at least not in the first round of the playoffs, maybe in the finals. They'll play him more. 5,400, I guess he is somewhat interesting, but I still can't play him over someone like Goran Dragic. Goran Dragic just looks like an incredible play today. On Draftkings, he's only 4,400. He's somewhat expensive on Yahoo. They have him priced correctly. He's actually $1 more than Eric Bledsoe, but I think with his price, kind of being up there on Yahoo, that's going to keep his ownership down, so you should get Dragic at pretty low ownership on Yahoo, which I think also, makes him very appealing over there. So we did already get word that Kendrick Nunn is going to play off the bench, which, it means that Goran Dragic is going to be their starting point guard. Dragic did start their last game, or the game against the Pacers. He did start that game, played 30 minutes, had 33 Draftkings points. I believe Kendrick Nunn was out that game. Dragic did start. Dragic is always a guy I have interest in when he's going to get, around 30 minutes. And I would assume with him starting now, that's going to be the case. We're going to see Dragic probably playing 30 to 32 minutes a night. This guy's incredibly productive when he gets minutes. He's not one of those guys that's just going to stand in the corner. He's going to have the ball in his hands a lot. He's going to facilitate, can get you a double-double with points and assists. He can rebound pretty well, as well. There is so much upside for Dragic at 4,400, especially now that he's starting. The minutes are going to be there. He's going to be really popular, but I think this is chalk that I'm probably just going to eat today. If he was like 6K, then I would probably, have a little bit of concern. He wouldn't be as good of a play if he was that expensive. But when he's 4,400, he's going to project for probably like 30 minutes and 35 Draftkings points if I had to guess. And that's too good to pass up when you're only 4,400. So Goran Dragic, great value play today. He should be starting here with Kendrick Nunn going to go to the bench. So I like him a lot as a value point guard. And then Markelle Fultz, another guy that looks really good as a value point guard. Only 4,200 on DraftKings. The Magic already come out and said that, Fultz is going to be their starting point guard in the playoffs and that DJ Augustin is going to go to the bench. So that makes me like Fultz quite a bit. I think he's going to play probably 32 to 34 minutes if this game is close. This is a game that has a lot of blowout concern. Right now, Milwaukee, they're favored by 12 points. This is definitely one of the riskier games on the slate in terms of blowout. But still, if we're going to get around 30 to 32 minutes from Markelle Fultz at only 4,200, this is a guy that averages close to a fantasy point per minute. Right now, Aaron Gordon is questionable for the Magic. We don't know yet if he's going to play. If he were to sit, that would just make me like Fultz even more because that would just allow Fultz to get even more usage. But Fultz, whether he starts or comes off the bench, he's always been a productive player, can always give you a fantasy point per minute. I like him a lot here at 4,200. A big-time pace-up spot for the Magic. The Bucks are a really good defensive team, but they do play at the fastest pace in the league. They lead the league in pace during the regular season. So I always have interest in some guys when they're playing the Bucks, just due to them being such a fast-paced team. Fultz only 4,200. I think he should be probably around like 5,500, close to 6K today, especially since we know he's starting. 4,200 looks like too good of a value to pass up on. I think he's another guy that's going to be pretty popular today. But that's chalk that I'm probably just going to be eating and then kind of moving on. I'll find other ways to differentiate, other ways to make my lineup contrarian. Dragic and Fultz are two great values today, and I think those are guys I'm just going to be playing. On Yahoo, I do like Fultz as well. He's not as cheap over there, $17, but I still do like him quite a bit on Yahoo. Very similar to Goran Dragic. I think with Fultz kind of being priced up a little bit, that will keep his ownership down, so I don't expect Dragic or Fultz to be nearly as popular on Yahoo as they will on DK. But that's probably it for me in terms of point guard value plays. Not really anybody, in this 4Ks that I want to play besides Dragic and Fultz. Maybe Austin Rivers you could go to with Russell Westbrook out, but who knows what Austin Rivers is going to do. Now that Eric Gordon's back as well, I just don't really think I need to go to Austin Rivers, especially because he's 5,300. So let's go ahead and move on to shooting guard and talk about this position. So you do have CJ McCollum. I didn't mention him back at point guard. I don't think he's a guy I'm going to play too much today. CJ McCollum I rarely play whenever Lillard and Nurkic are healthy. That's the case right now with Lillard and Nurkic healthy. Lillard's just getting so much usage in that offense. CJ has put up solid games, during the regular season and during the bubble in the games that he did play his full minutes, which was pretty much every game. He's going to get huge minutes. He's probably going to play over 40 minutes if I had to guess. He's just not the highest upside player. Rarely does CJ McCollum just go out and break the slate. Normally he's getting you about 40 to 45 DK points, which is solid, but not a play you have to have when he's 8,100. I think we could see someone like Jimmy Butler, easily outscore CJ McCollum, and Butler's $500 less. I do like Jimmy Butler a lot at his salary. I think at 7,600, he looks like a really good play on DraftKings. He's pretty expensive on Yahoo. He is the second most expensive shooting guard. He's $5 more than CJ McCollum. He's $8 more than SGA. So I don't think I'll be playing too much Jimmy Butler on Yahoo, but on DK, at 7,600, there's plenty of upside for Jimmy Butler at this price. Now that the playoffs are here, I expect Jimmy Butler to play huge minutes, probably 36 to 38 minutes if I had to guess. This is a Pacers team that he just faced a couple days ago and went absolutely nuclear against them. 29 minutes, but put up 50 DraftKings points. We know there's some beef between him and TJ Warren. I didn't get to watch much of that game, but I bet, Jimmy Butler was probably looking to attack, going at TJ Warren. At 7,600, I just like Butler for the price. This is a guy that's going to give you probably 40 to 45 DraftKings points most nights, especially during the playoffs. He's going to have the ball in his hands even more than normal in the playoffs and the postseason. They're going to lean on him more offensively. I like him quite a bit at his DK price. I do prefer him over CJ when you get the $500 savings. I think even if Butler was more expensive than CJ, I would probably still prefer Butler. We talked about SGA. I do like SGA quite a bit at 6,900. Don't really see myself going to Oladipo at 62 or Schroeder at 61. Schroeder's got upside, but rarely do I play him. He comes off the bench, probably going to play, about 30, 32 minutes. He's a guy that can spark an upside. He can go out there and put up 40 DK points. I just don't know if I need to go to him, especially when we have guys like Dragic and Fultz that are $2,000 less that, project close to Schroeder. Eric Gordon, though, is someone that I do like quite a bit. So we already know that he is going to move into the starting lineup. He only played 2 games since he returned from injury. He played 2 games in the bubble, played 20 and 23 minutes in those 2 games, was somewhat productive, 17, 21 DraftKings points. He does see a big boost, though, with Russell Westbrook off the floor. You're going to see James Harden and Eric Gordon's minutes staggered, which most likely means that one of them is going to be on the floor at all times. Whenever Gordon, gets time on the floor without James Harden, that is when I expect him to be the most productive. At 5,500 on DK, he's not a must-play by any means. If he was 4K, I would think he'd be one of the top plays today. At 5,500, he's not a lock and load for me. I like him more on Yahoo, where he is incredibly cheap. We look over here. You got Eric Gordon coming in at $11 on Yahoo. I think that is, one of the top small forward plays when you factor in salary. Looks really good on Yahoo. On DK at 5,500, I don't mind getting away from that. That is a pretty expensive price tag for Eric Gordon. I assume he's probably going to be back to playing his normal minutes, 20 and 23 minutes last 2 games. This is the playoffs now. These guys are going to go out there and play as much as they can. We saw Mitchell, Jokic, even at the end of regulation, those guys had played 40 minutes on Monday. The starters are going to get huge minutes in the postseason. I expect close to 40 minutes for James Harden. I expect probably 34 to 36 from Eric Gordon. I do like him quite a bit with Westbrook out. Prefer him more on Yahoo, where he's really cheap at $11. But then if we're looking for value plays here, so Evan Fournier is someone that usually I never play. I don't think I played Fournier at all during the regular season. He's one of those guys you just never feel like you have to have. He's a guy that doesn't really go out there and just break the slate. He's got some upside, though, especially if he knocks down his shots. I do like the matchup here against Milwaukee. Milwaukee, we know, is a fast-paced team. They're going to allow, because they do play at such a fast pace, that's going to allow the Magic to get more shots up, to get more, opportunities to shoot the ball. The Bucks are also a team that allows the most 3-point attempts in the league. So it's a really good spot for Evan Fournier. We know that, 3-point attempts, that's his game. If he goes out there and puts up like 35, 40 DraftKings points, it's probably because he knocked down like 6 or 7 threes. He's got that kind of upside. He's only 4,900 as well. And I think Fournier projects really good for this salary. It's the playoffs, so I expect him to probably get about 34 to 36 minutes. A guy that can give you close to a fantasy point per minute. If Aaron Gordon were to sit, that would make me like Fournier even more, because Gordon being out would allow Fournier to get a little bit more usage. We do know that Jonathan Isaac is still going to be out, though. So, the offense is going to run through Fournier. It's going to run through Fultz, Fournier, Aaron Gordon, and Vucevic, those 4 guys, and then Terrence Ross whenever he comes off the bench. I do like Fournier, though, at his DK salary. I think 4,900, there's easy potential for him to get 6x, 7x value on this price, especially in a big-time pace-up spot against the Bucks. So I like him quite a bit at 4,900. There's not much else, though, that I like under him. Tyler Hero, I've been playing a lot recently, but now that, Nunn's back, Dragic is back, it's the playoffs, I don't expect Hero to be playing like 38 minutes. I think he's going to go back to playing about 24, 25 minutes off the bench. So I don't really want to go to him. Ben McLemore's fine here without Russell Westbrook, but I expect him to come off the bench as well because, Eric Gordon's back in the starting lineup, so Eric Gordon's going to be starting. I don't think there's really any value that I see besides the guys that I've kind of already talked about. Don't really see myself taking a shot on any of these punt plays. I think if I'm going cheap at shooting guard, I believe you can play Fultz here, if I'm not mistaken. Or no, he's only point guard, but you got Dragic, I believe, might be point guard or shooting guard. No, he's not either. So I guess the only value play that I really like at shooting guard under 5K is Fournier. And I guess Terrence Ross, too. Terrence Ross has a very similar game to Fournier. I think I would just rather play Fournier because he starts and usually plays about 4 or 5 more minutes than Ross does. So I'd rather go to him, but yeah, let's go ahead and move on to small forward now. So at this position, you got LeBron at the top, who I talked about, don't have too much interest in today. I just rather would pay up for Lillard and pay up for Harden. TJ Warren at 8K, I doubt I really go to him at that price tag. I'd rather play Jimmy Butler for cheaper. I'd rather go to some of the other guys I talked about. Chris Middleton, very similar to Eric Bledsoe. Like, rarely do I play Chris Middleton when Giannis is healthy. At 7,300, I guess there is a little bit of interest in him, especially because it's a pretty short 4-game slate. But I still don't feel like Middleton's going to be a core play for me, not a guy I look to build around. I really like Jimmy Butler. You can play him here at small forward. He's got small forward eligibility. You got Eric Gordon, who we talked about. I have some interest in him. Carmelo, not a guy I rarely play, but 5,800, not too expensive of a price tag. We know Melo's going to play huge minutes. Zach Collins has already been ruled out for this game, so that should just solidify Melo's minutes even more. I expect 36 to 38 minutes from Carmelo. It's a tough spot against the Lakers, but it's hard to argue against him when he's playing, as many minutes as he is. Can give you close to a fantasy point per minute. 5,800, there is a little bit of interest in Melo. I mean, you got Terrence Ross you could play, who I think is fine, but yeah, small forward kind of sucks today. There's not a lot of guys that stand out. I talked about Jimmy Butler. I really like him. He's probably the guy that I'll be playing most at this position. Like Rocco at 6,500, it's fine. I just rarely do I feel like I have to have Robert Covington. Like, he's one of those guys that just isn't going to go out there and break the slate. Like, rarely is Robert Covington going to give you 45 or 50 DK points. I know he did it against Dallas, where he played 42 minutes, but I think that was like a double overtime game or an overtime game. So, yeah, I think at small forward, I really just like Jimmy Butler here. And Carmelo's fine. Eric Gordon's fine as well. Eric Gordon on Yahoo, easily, my favorite small forward, given that he's $11 over there. But yeah, I think that's it for small forward. Let's go ahead and move on to the power forward position. So at the top here, you got Giannis and you got AD. I think I prefer to go to Giannis here for 10-5. Giannis is just a more productive player than AD is on a point-per-minute basis. AD is probably going to play more minutes than Giannis, but Giannis is a guy that averages like 1.8 fantasy points per minute. I don't think he's going to play huge minutes. They're probably not going to need him to. This is a spot where I think the Bucks can easily sweep the Magic. But I think we'll still get 30 to 32 minutes from Giannis if it's a close game. That's enough for him to go out there and put up 65, 70 DraftKings points. I still don't expect him to be, my top stud option, though. If I'm looking to pay up today, it's going to be for James Harden. And I think it might be tough to get like Harden and Giannis together. I don't know if I'll be able to do that. But I would say Giannis is probably my second favorite stud. It'd be close between him and Lillard. I think I'd have Giannis 2 when you factor in price, because Giannis is cheaper than Lillard. So it'd be Harden number 1, Giannis 2, and then Lillard 3. Davis would probably be number 4 for me. I think I would rather play AD over LeBron. I like this spot a lot for AD against Portland. Definitely a spot where he should dominate. Nurkic is a solid defender, but Not really someone that's going to slow down AD. AD's probably going to get matched up against Carmelo at times, especially at the beginning of the game whenever, JaVale McGee's on the floor. I don't know who's going to start at power forward for Portland. I assume it's probably going to be, like Wade and Gabriel. Gabriel's not going to slow down AD. Like, he should be able to feast whenever, Gabriel's on him. So, definitely like AD here. Just hard to play him over guys like Giannis, Harden, Lillard, guys that just produce at such a high level. But we know where all the production is going to come from the Lakers. It's going to come from AD and from LeBron. I know those two guys, weren't great really during the regular season, but I do expect them to turn it on during the playoffs. I think we're going to see them play very well during the playoffs. But then you got like Nurkic at 9,100. Again, I don't think Nurkic is someone I have to have today. It's a tough spot against the Lakers. We know Nurkic has massive upside. If you watch that Memphis game, like he just went nuclear in that game. 20 and 20, 22 points, 21 rebounds, also had 6 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 65 Draftkings points. We know Nurkic he's got that kind of upside in him. I expect him to play probably 34, 35 minutes if this is a close game, which it should be. I just don't know if Nurkic is going to be a guy that I prioritize today because I'm really going to be looking to build around Harden. I like Jimmy Butler a lot at his price tag. Nurkic is fine, just not a guy that I think I'm going to prioritize. Looking at other power forwards, though, there's not much here that I haven't already talked about. Darius Basley was someone I've been playing a lot recently just because he's been getting a ton of minutes. But now that the playoffs are here, I think his minutes are going to trend down. He was getting about 25 to 30 minutes off the bench. I think, now that the playoffs are here, we're probably going to see Gallo have his minutes ramped up, and then Basley's going to see his minutes cut down. So it's hard for me to go to Darius Basley. I just don't know what the productions or the minutes are going to look like. I expect the production to be there. He is a pretty productive player, or at least he has been. I just don't see him playing 30 minutes. Gallo's going to get back to playing 30 minutes because if we look at Gallo's minutes, he was pretty much limited the whole regular season. His highest minute game was 29 minutes against Denver, and then they just kind of limited him the rest. Obviously, they didn't need to push him. They didn't really have too much to play for during those seeding games. They kind of knew what seed they were going to get, what spot in the playoffs they were going to be at. Now the playoffs are here. I think Gallo gets back to playing his normal 30 to 32 minutes, and we see Basley's minutes cut down to probably like mid-20s. So tough to go to him at 4,500. Jay Crowder, one of those guys that's just a little bit too cheap. You never know what you're going to get from Jay Crowder. He's not the highest upside player, but he's probably going to start, going to play about 30 to 32 minutes if I had to guess. He's only 3,900. Jay Crowder's definitely in play as a punt option if you do want to go cheap at this position. I would say like under 5K. He's definitely my favorite play. I'd rather go to him over guys like Kelly O, Basley. You're not playing any of these guys under 5K or under 4K besides Crowder. Like, these guys just aren't going to get enough minutes. Some of them probably won't even play, won't even be in the rotation. So I do like Jay Crowder as a value, just 3,900. He is questionable, but I'm pretty sure he's going to play. I think he practiced on Saturday or Sunday last time they had practice. Yeah, he participated in Saturday's practice, so he's going to be good to go. He should be starting 3,900. Pretty good value play there. But yeah, let's go ahead and talk about center real quick, just before we end the video. So at the center position, you got AD at the top for 10,400, who we talked about. We talked about a lot of these guys at the top, both AD and Nurkic. You do have Vooch for 8,800. I don't think I can really go to Vooch today over someone like Nurkic. I think Nurkic is a guy that I'd rather play. Nurkic is a more productive player than Vooch is. Vooch had his minutes limited a lot during the seeding games, but I expect him to get back to playing his normal, 34 to 36 minutes, maybe even more. The Magic are going to need big games out of Vooch if they want to have a chance in this series. I expect Vooch to play well. I just can't go to him on this slate when you have Nurkic for only 300 more. You also have a guy like Bam Adebayo for $1,400 less. I think Bam Adebayo looks really good on DraftKings at his price. I like the matchup a lot against the Pacers. The Pacers were a team that, kind of got hurt pretty bad by centers during the regular season. If you look at like DVP, I know that's something people don't really look at for NBA, and I don't really, it's not something I weight too heavily. But if you do look at DVP, I'm pretty sure the Pacers were like top 5 in terms of fantasy points allowed to centers during the regular season. I think Bam did have some pretty big games against them. I know he only put up 32 DK points when they played about a week ago, but that was because he only played 22 minutes. It was a blowout. I expect Bam to get back to playing his normal, 34, 36, maybe even 38 minutes. He's going to get huge minutes. I like him a lot at 7,400. He's definitely probably one of my favorite centers on DraftKings when you factor in his price tag. Miles Turner, I do like here. It's tough to go to Miles Turner, though, on DraftKings at 7,200. But if we look at Yahoo pricing, I think Miles Turner looks like a great play on Yahoo. Over there, he's cheaper than Brook Lopez. He's cheaper than Steven Adams. He's $13 less than Bam Adebayo. Definitely sign me up for a lot of Miles Turner on Yahoo. I love him at just $20. We know his numbers, see the big spike whenever Domantas Sabonis is off the floor. Sabonis is going to be out, so I do expect, Turner to be incredibly productive. He wasn't too good during the seeding games. He didn't have nearly as many good games as I thought he would, but he did have a solid game against Houston, their last game, 27 minutes, 39 fantasy points, 18 and 12 with 2 assists, a steal, and a block. Turner easily has double-double upside with Sabonis off the floor. His rebounding numbers see a huge spike. He gets a little bit more usage as well. He goes from averaging like 0.85 fantasy points per minute to like 1.15. Just sees a massive bump whenever you take Sabonis off. And for only $20, there is big-time upside for Miles Turner. He can easily give you 40 fantasy points and be an incredible play at just $20. So I like Turner a lot on Yahoo. On Draftkings, looking at their pricing, I like Bam Adebayo the most at $7,400. But then like Steven Adams, Brook Lopez, I don't think these are going to be guys I, really build around today. I think Brook Lopez is fine at $4,700. We're probably going to get about 30 to 32 minutes from Brook Lopez. Can easily pay off this cheap price tag. Just not a guy that I feel like I'm going to be building around today. Rarely is Brook Lopez someone that I build around. Jeff Green, probably going to see about 30 minutes off the bench. He's fine to go to as well. But again, I don't think these are going to be guys I look to build around. Now, I do want to talk about Portland, so we know that Zach Collins is going to be out today. I have no idea who starts at power forward for Portland. If I had to guess, I would say it would probably be Wayne Gabriel. Gabriel is really cheap. He's only $3,200. He's only power forward eligibility, or he's only a power forward. So I should have talked about him when we were at power forward. I assume Gabriel starts here. He did replace Zach Collins whenever Collins got hurt. I don't want to go to Gabriel today. I did want to mention Hassan Whiteside, though. I think without Zach Collins, there's a chance we see Whiteside and Nurkic play alongside each other more than they normally would. Honestly, there's a chance, Whiteside starts. It wouldn't be surprising to see him start, especially against a big Lakers front court. I just don't know how many minutes he plays, but if he does wind up starting, Whiteside could be a really good option at $4,400. I don't expect him to be nearly as productive, playing alongside high-usage guys like Lillard and Nurkic. But this is still a guy that just has so much upside when he gets minutes. Should get a few more minutes today without Zach Collins. At $4,400, I don't mind taking a shot on him in GPPs, especially if he is going to be really low owned. This could be a spot where we see him play more alongside Nurkic than he normally would. So I do like Whiteside. I did want to mention him as a value for $4,400. But yeah, I think we covered everything for center, guys. I think we broke it all down for this 4-game slate. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. I really do appreciate you watching. If you enjoyed, just hit that like button before we get out of here. We got over close to 300 likes on yesterday's video, over 4,000 views. Just so much support, guys. I can't thank you guys enough for all the support. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, click the notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload and you'll never miss out on any of my new videos. And if you would like, I do have more content available on Patreon. If you want to get more content from me than just the YouTube videos that I post, I do have stuff on Patreon. You can get access to my articles that I post Monday through Friday for both NBA and MLB. You can get access to my updated court plays for both of those sports. You can also get in our Discord chat where we're talking through every sport, NBA, MLB. We'll be talking NFL when it gets here in a couple weeks. Definitely check out the Patreon, see all that I have to offer over there. But I think that's it, guys. Best of luck tonight. I really appreciate you watching the video. I hope you enjoyed, and we will see you in the next one. Peace.